Hey everyone. Hey there, Rich, Dennis, Bob. Let's go. We don't like football. uh, Anybody wants to come in? I'm going to drop the link. Let's see. And there's the link. Hey.
I do like football. I'm just not. I don't like either of the teams playing in tonight's football game.
Oh, I don't know much about football. Well, I mean, I know what, I do, but I don't.
Oh man, what's going on?
Well, now it's raining here. It started about 2:30 this afternoon.
It hadn't got over about 45 degrees here today, so
it's 36 right now.
The matter of fact, it's kind of chilly in my house right now. But
what's happening, Keith?
I moved my desk forward a little bit, so all you worry warts about me knocking it off the shelf. James came last night. He's like, Charlie wanted to talk about single brood chamber management, and he never came back.
Yeah, I know. I had to go pick up some friends, and I got real tired, and I just went to bed and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know how that goes. Matter of fact, I talked to Brian from Flower Street earlier. He said, well, if I'm going live tonight, I might come on.
That's cool. Hey, Dennis.
Talking to him about a project.
Randy.
There's coming in all our our anti-football game night.
I mean, I just never was a big sports fan.
Asian hope China does not drop an Asian hornets on us from those balloons. Yeah, me too. I hope not. B's got enough problems without having to fight those guys, right?
Yeah, I just I'm trying to keep up with everybody that drops in. Kind of want to know, kind of know them and everything. I've been keeping records of either their handle and and what state they are from, which is nice to know.
I called Sean Bowders today. It's his birthday, so if you see him, tell him happy birthday.
Sean, what's the last name?
Bowders, B-O-U-T, Bow, B-O-U, Terse,
Yeah.
T-E-R-S-E. He's in the chat a lot.
Hey, Kyle.
And so yeah, man, it's just been one of those days. It's been a blessing kind of day. Lure is definitely got the Mr. Ed and Mike Berry effect happening to it right now.
Has Mike posted anything as far as has he caught anything with it yet?
I don't know. He just posted the video up yesterday, but
right,
he hadn't called me or mentioned, so I don't know. Texas, is there other states?
What do you mean? I don't get.
That's what Dennis Barney said.
Okay.
So, yeah, just been busy today. I went out, took the dogs out, came back in. You know those supers that I had hanging in or had stacked up in my honey house that I hadn't harvested the honey off of them yet?
Right.
Well, there was a puddle of honey in the floor. So,
got some robbing going on there now.
Well, it's inside the building, right? So the thing was that it was too cold to really extract it. So I said, I'll just leave it sitting here. And then I came out today, there was a puddle. I was like, you know what? My slow behind was right next to it, right next to my uncapping table. So I took all those frames out and hung them in my uncapping table, which would have, smarter idea, right? So it's would have dripped in there instead of on my floor. But we learned. We learned.
Yeah, Brad, I know the football game was on, but I'm not a football fan or really any type of sports fan, to be quite honest with you. I figured maybe there were some other beekeepers out there, and here it's raining and it's yucky out. So I figured, well, at least we'd have somebody to talk to. Anybody wants, if you want to come on in and have a chat or any, Keith, I'm not, do you know where Keith lives? Keith Faithful?
I'm not sure.
Keith, what state are you out of?
A lot of these people have ordered from me, but they might have one screen name, right? And then comes in as something else.
Okay. West Virginia, right?
Yeah. Is that's well, yeah, West Virginia. So this weather, I think I catch heck with the weather when it goes from 70, 75 to 45 and then back to 70. Seems like I'm always just like congested or whatever. So it wasn't much bee stuff happening today. I cleaned up my office, even though on the video I did today, you couldn't really tell it was clean. But hey, compared to what it was, even though it looks messy, it was still clean.
Yeah. No, like I say, anything I did yesterday, I went out there, checked the rest of my 10 framers. They all got good, either spotter and lanternfly honey or sugar water honey, which I gave them. Checked a couple nukes. It was getting late in the evening and they still had plenty of fondant on there. They were eating it and all, along with some pollen patties. So I left them alone. I'll check them this week. They say it's going to be like 55 to 60 degrees. So I'll say 60 towards the end of the week. We'll see.
It's supposed to be in the 70s all week here.
Really?
I'm expecting, if it warms up to 70 tomorrow, if I have any bees that were thinking about swarming, tomorrow will be the day. Tomorrow will be the day.
Well, have you went into your hives and, let's say, kind of checked how many frames of brood you've had in there, open and capped, and kind of looked at the overall population and kind of got an idea?
So I've been judging the populations. I've got a few that are pretty big, but those are the ones that I've been using to equalize the other colonies. There's one that I really haven't checked too much. It's over on the on Nucleus Row over there where I had all those nuke hives. Really haven't checked that one too much, but I mean, they look like a pretty decent cluster. I was just trying to get them like everybody's pictures, where they're nice and slammed out in there.
All right, Dennis says he made some 5-gallon bucket traps.
Yeah, they 5-gallon bucket swarm traps. You just use 5-gallon buckets, and then you you coat it with wax, and you put drill a hole in it, like in the end.
Grammy.
You've seen those paper ones.
I've seen those paper. Yeah, those paper ones you buy. It's got like a lid on it and all that.
Basically, it's the plastic version of that.
Oh, okay. So do you just put a hole in the bucket, and then they make their own comb and everything in there?
Yeah, you just put some comb or some wax in it, and some old comb or something like that or some old slum gum to give them the scent, and
and some, I'm sure some swarm lure, right? You gotta put swarm lure in there.
You gotta use swarm lure for that.
I mean, that's almost a guarantee.
I had old Galloway put on my thing. Is this becoming on my channel today? Is this becoming the Swarm Rustle channel? And I commented back to him. He's a little sarcastic. He likes to be sarcastic, right? So so I put back. I said the beauty of it being my channel is it can be anything I want it to be, and that was it. Yeah, you won it last year. Hey,
okay.
Those things are they're solid. It's like one of those big compressed paper
Yeah, don't they use them
Or
in
like,
the gardening centers or something of that
yeah,
nature?
but these are thicker than that. They're like pressed. So yeah, same thing. You know how you get those little pressed flower pots? That's basically what it is with a cap on
Mhm.
it. So
Yeah.
they're pretty good.
But
Lee must
yeah,
be getting Renee aggro. That's why he's not popping in on these streams.
who?
Lee must be getting Renee aggro, his woman there.
Oh, okay. I don't
Oh
know.
shoot, that's why it won't go back on. It's broken. The door to my GoPro. I need to get that fixed or get a new. Oh, now I got a reason to buy a new GoPro. GoPro works fine, but the door came off of it, so now I got to get it. I got to buy another one.
What, the camera?
Yeah, my GoPro. The side door won't go back on that covers the charging port. It's busted.
Oh,
But Dennis said he was impressed with it. Yeah, did you use it last year or did we give it away after swarm season? I don't remember when we gave them away. To be honest with you, it's been a while. But yeah, man, it's been a couple boring rainy days, so I just was doing chores around the house, and I call it improving the electrical, but replacing old breakers with brand new ones. 1960s breakers for 2020.
well, breakers do wear out. They do have the sensitivity, I guess you would call it. It weakens, and
Uh-oh. What did
what?
Ed say? I just got a text from Ed, son of one.
Where's he? What state is he located in?
He's Alabama, right outside of right by Bruce. He had to make he checked his main hive and had to make another split today. Let's see. I even placed a double screen divider in and placed the girls on top of the bigger hive, then split the new split in a nuke box. So he's starting with I am at 4 for now, starting to run short on frames now. See. So
Now, direct honey, that's William, right?
dry cut, yeah.
Is it dry cut?
Yeah, DRICUT or DRIE, right?
Okay, I'll have to look at that up. I was typing out a grid form where all the different people coming in and what states they are, so I can acknowledge them that they're coming in.
No,
Did Mr. Piggy come back home? Mike said.
no, George is not home. He's gone. So this week, on one of these nice days, I'm going to repair that fence and I don't know. It's kind of muddy from when the pigs were in there, so I don't know if I should. If I put my dogs in there right away, they're going to get all muddy if it rains. So I might have to try to put some wood chips or something in there. I don't know. We'll see. Or just go ahead and throw down some chicken scratch. It'll grow grass in a few weeks.
Oh, there goes Ed. Here comes Ed. He's in.
Yeah, I just messaged him. We were live over there. So it's coming in. No, he's here. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so he's doing some stuff. The only thing that still this time of year, there are drones here, but there's not like a ton of them, so it's kind of a gamble whether or not the queen's gonna get mated and come back type of situation. But
yeah, I know James was in here last night. Was texting him here a little bit ago. He was going to come in, but he had an emergency crop up on a friend of his. I guess boiler furnace messed up. So, where he's at, that's a major issue, especially as cold as it is. So he went to help them. So I said, that's why,
we talked about that last night about how it's kind of the lost art, right? If if somebody needs some help, you go help them, and then if you need help, they come and help you, and you kind of work together. And that's not really the case. He said he has that problem. A lot of beekeepers up there are like that, where it's like
They're tight-lipped.
yeah, they don't want to.
They want to say nothing for nothing. Well, that's what I found is here I'm in Maryland. I had to travel, well, I'll say 8 hours down to Knoxville, Tennessee. Back in 2019, they had this thing called the honey convention. It was a weekend honeybee conference is what it was. Two-day conference. Kent Williams out of Kentucky. He's a master beekeeper and queen rearing. That's what he does for a living, plus a little bit of honey. I think he's got his hives down around Mississippi or, down in the deep South. And so I took his class, and because of the location in March, hey, Robin Hood, that time Eagles ahead. Okay, who's the Eagles are playing who?
The Chiefs.
Oh, and so anyway, I went down there. They brought in brood. Of course, I won't say it was the right age, but we didn't know. We were learning. And yeah, Keith, you went to Kent's classes. Great guy, absolutely. He's one of a kind as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, in I'm gonna say 5 minutes, I was grafted. And he explained. He gave him a lot of things on like how to test the tip of the Chinese grafting tool. And he said, if let's say you pull the tongue, that tongue will pull off, because it's just glued on there. And he said, just take it apart, make sure you don't lose the parts, and take some crazy glue and glue the tongue back. He says, it don't take much to repair it.
Right. But the worst part is losing the spring, right?
Yeah, and now Ed here, that's absolutely right. If you give it, it'll come back to you. I think in the Bible, it actually says it'll come back to you, let's say tenfold,
right?
That kind of thing. So, anyway, I learned how to graft. Like say he had 2 days of the same class. I took both days and, took my equipment with me, my, what do you call it? Magnification unit and all that. And I come back here. Now, something that he was trying to say he was giving you a set of time and marking the frame. And if you find that where the eggs are, come back in so many days, and, that'll be the right, he was trying to give you a way of calculating the right age of larvae.
Right.
And I tried that. It didn't work because I'm looking at the larvae. I'm like, I don't know. Is it 1 day old, 2 day old, 3 day old? Well, it wasn't 3 day because it had been hatched. But so I just finally came up with my own idea where if you see puddles of jelly in the cells, you can't see anything floating, that they're there. You just can't see them. They're microscopic. And that's the time to do it. And all that kind of stuff. But like I say, I had to go all the way down south where they will help you and all that. Come up here, they're a bunch of tight-lipped guys, or they do it. I'll say I had some ones in my group that I belonged to, my club, where they were retirees and they did it, let's say 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, that doesn't help me at all.
Right.
And let's see, what's Lee talking here? Or no, Brad. I'll show it up on the screen. I have to, and I used them last year to make early splits.
Maybe poly. Is he talking about poly hives? I don't know. What I did is when I split those bees off the other day, I put them right in I gave them 24 hours in the wood, and then I moved them over to my poly 10 framer. So, but they got a good sized cluster in there, so we'll see.
Keith is agreeing with the way I guess the way I manage the eggs as far
Well,
as
you
and
know,
sometimes it's in the springtime it's easy to find a lot of frames like that. Closer to end of
spring.
July for me, it gets harder and harder and harder to find that.
Well, my thing is, if you remember this past season, I was having the issue with that discoloration on my brood because they were too dry, right? So until it started slapping feed on them, then it started changing up a little bit. So
Yeah. No, I put the pollen patties on my nukes. I wanted them to build up the most of all. I mean, all my hives, as far as the size of the cluster, I mean, they got good bee population. So we're in good shape there and all that. And, but I've been reviewing some videos tonight. I watched Bob Binney and that other guy that he had brought on from around Asheville, North Carolina.
yeah, that was interesting talk. His whole family.
I like that where he was making the splits and not, where you had one, I'll say one empty comb and then you had two brood combs and two brood combs on either side, but never put one brood comb by itself in the nest because that kind of set,
you talking about the one that came out today?
No, one today.
Okay, the one that came out today was a guy like Halbin something, long name, right? And his family's been in commercial beekeeping since.
Oh, you're talking about that tall fella in front of the classroom. He was. I watched him today too. He was interesting.
From
he had lost his business
when
and
he
I think
he did what we're trying not to do, right? We're trying not to go into debt to grow our bees. Similar to how James said, he set himself a budget, and that was his budget, and he wasn't going to go in the red to do this.
Well, I think one thing was he talked about when Clinton opened up the borders for China, then that cut the price of honey at that time in half. And I mean, if somebody cuts your income in half, what do it and depends on whether, like you said, if you're carrying a heavy debt load and
then you
that
can't make the
happens,
notes. Yeah.
then you can't make the notes.
Well,
so
he said he had he said at that time you could buy boxes like 5 cent, people just liquidating everything to get as much money back as they could get. And so I found it very interesting. I like the historical aspects of it, and I definitely like the beeconomics, right?
What I found interesting was as I was listening to him, I don't mean to knock the guy down or nothing like that, but I'm listening to his management and okay, I think he lost the business because of what the trade agreement was with China that cut his income in half. And then, it blindsided him and he was figuring, hey, I can make these notes at what I was making. And all of a sudden the bottom just got knocked out from underneath of him without him, it wasn't his fault type of thing. But then I watched him later on where, remember, he got back into beekeeping and then he had a trailer and a truck and then a little hand, wheel hand truck.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't know. I look at that and I'm thinking to myself, it's just like the equipment I've been buying. I know that I can sell a certain amount of honey. And if I can reinvest a little bit at a time where you got a little bit of debt load, but not much. And then you can pay that off in a year or two.
He also is a migratory beekeeper, right? So he moves his bees from field to field to field.
So to me, a bobcat or some type of hydraulic lifting machine is essential as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he had a part of his first plan. He did have that. And I think he's got all that again now, right? But he's talking about when he first got back in. That's how he got back in. He scratched and clawed back to it, right?
Yeah.
which I admire.
Now, it was something interesting, and I'm going to try to get his son on my Friday night chat. We do have, I think, maybe 2 commercial beekeepers in the state of Maryland where they do send their bees. I do know of one that sends their bees to almonds. And I met another guy Saturday, and he told me he had 700 hives. Now he's down around 6. He does have a day job. And then I think they do pollination. So they do a lot of now pollination around here is we're close to the Eastern Shore of Maryland, which is a big vegetable area, pumpkins and all kinds of different, strawberries and pumpkins and sweet corn and all kinds of produce. And also that also is very close to New Jersey, which also South New Jersey, I think, has a lot of that type of pollination type services wanting to be done. I know Jason for being Bohemia Bees is kind of getting into that because he lives in the area. And this guy has 600 hives and they move them. And I said, what do you have? I'm like, I'm looking at James and I'm looking at Brad and Ian and most people have 4-ways down here. I said, what do you got? A forklift or move, with 4-way pallet? No, he says by hand. And I'm like, what? It's like 600 hives. Cool, man. I mean, and he was telling me, there's a lot of small distilleries around our area now that are on farms to kind of give them a boost in finances and stuff. And they're selling a lot of honey through 5-gallon buckets to them, which is quick money versus trying to sell it by a 1-pound bottle or 2-pound bottle, stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're talking, James talks about 78 hives and 34, let's say 3,000 pounds of honey. If you've got 600 hives, of course, it also depends on location and what kind of honey that you can produce off of what type of plant. But let's just say for every 100 hives, he did 1,000 pounds. Well, there's 6,000 pounds of honey. I mean, there's definitely, and he's got a day job on top of it. That amount of money or honey out of that amount of money would definitely pay for a good used forklift.
Yeah, you could probably, I mean, I don't know. You could probably find, all kinds of marketplaces, right? OfferUp.
I don't know what kind of money he would charge for, buckets of honey. Whether that would be a $5 a pound bucket or, something like that, 60 pounds. So at $5, that's $300 a bucket.
I got an order on,
but I was just saying, if he's been at it for quite a few years, I would think that would have been a must, to get either a Hummer-Bee beekeeping forklift that's 4-wheel drive or a Bobcat or skid loader with forks.
Something you could probably find a used.
Well, my son just bought let's see, what is it? A Case International skid steer. And it's over 10 years old, I'll say. I think he paid $12,000 for it. He's got, minor stuff, like bushings, like where bushings are on the hydraulic arms. So he spent, I think like $250 for, wear plates, bushings, pins, just to kind of get it nice and tight,
Even if you could find one of those, I'm not sure what they call it, but they use it to load sod. The sod pallets. They're always on the back of a tractor trailer.
Yeah, that's called a Moffett. It's made by a company called Moffett. Randy says $205 per bucket in Ohio. So where's my calculator? 205 divided by 60. $3 and 42 cents a pound.
342.
Yeah.
And if you're making thousands and thousands of pounds, I guess, that's not bad. I mean, to just get rid of it where you're not in the. I mean, technically, I feel like those people are in honey sales, but that's not their main deal, right?
Well, if they're, I've watched some shows, and if you send 400 hives out to almonds times $200
$80
per
grand.
hive, $200 for rental.
Oh, 40
Right.
hives?
They can haul 400 hives on a tractor and trailer.
I got my calculator right here. 400 times it. How much?
That's $80,000 for $200 a hive on a good year. Now, it might not be that this year, but
Well, yeah,
rental,
80,000, but then they got to pay the broker and the guys, right? And the transport
and the trucking. So you might have you got the broker, you got the trucking. So I'll say at least $10,000 right off the top, if not maybe more. But you could still make, let's say you get half of that, 40,000. Well, that, I know someone like 80 farms, where they got, I don't know, 20 or 30,000 hives, and they send trailer loads out. Of course, they got a big business with lots of people, and they probably, the money they get out of that will probably pay for their overhead for the year, help and stuff like that. And then after that, if they do pollination in other parts of the state or honey, that's where your profit margin comes in.
I messed up. Crap.
All right. Randy says after trucking expenses, $100 a hive. So you got 40,000. So that's about right. About half and all. I mean, that's a good amount and all. Now that also, I think I've heard, fluctuates depending on the need of out there in hey, Laura.
I think I just messed up here. Did DC just order some swarm lure? Is that DC that ordered? I know it's in Oregon, and its first name begins with a D.
I don't know. DC Blessed Bees, David. He's out in Washington State.
Washington State. Or is he in Well, this one was from Oregon.
Hmm. So anyway, I was watching these single brood chamber management, and I was watching that guy from Bob Benny down in Asheville. Was out there about a year ago. He was talking about more like splits and swarm management. And that wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for a little more detailed answers on like the one guy I seen yesterday. He's got 6 or 8 frames of brood. Oh, here comes the man himself, hopefully. He's not in yet. He's got to get across the border.
He's got to cross the border.
Yeah, he's got the lights out right now.
I was going to say I'm probably across the border, but I'm on my way out to help. Alan, he helped me pretty much all weekend in the wood shop building pallets.
Is that the bearded fella that came in the wood shop? I watched one of your videos.
That's Alan, exactly. Yep. So we're just on his way out. His brother's got some boiler problems.
Well, we just had this conversation last night too about helping each other out, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the important thing.
Actually, what I probably should do is this, because it's just probably going to be a whole lot easier than kind of watch me fade in and out of the light.
Well, that might be better for you in your phone too.
It's definitely better for us because we get to look at that emoji instead of you. Well, hey, I didn't not order any boxes. I do have 10 boxes on the way up from Florida. Amir went down there, and that guy that had those $12 boxes, so he picked me up 10.
Okay.
So now it's all about framage.
Right. So, James, on this here, when you're, you got your deep, it's full of brood, and then you put your queen excluder on, and then you put your honey supers on. Do you go back and equalize that through your honey season, or do you have to do that?
No, so I really don't have to do that. I'll get all of my equalization done before I throw the honey supers on. What happens after I put my honey supers on?
You put more honey supers on.
Well, exactly. You got to remember too. So now we'll back up there a little bit, Charlie. So what I'll do is when I first bring them out of the barn,
Right.
when I bring them out of the bee barn, I'm going to give them pollen patties and sugar water right away, because up here, I'm going to say the end of March, beginning of April, we definitely have no nectar flow. And we won't have any pollen going until our poplar trees up here is usually the first thing that they're going to get pollen from. So I will feed them sugar water and pollen patties as soon as I get them out. That gives me time to, do a bit of a mite shake and treat for mites if need be. And then I'm going to say about a week after that, 2 weeks after that, I'm going to go out and I'm going to drop another full deep box on top of them. After that, and I'm going to let that queen just lay up wherever she wants out there.
Have you got your?
I'm getting a real bad echo.
That's from Rick.
Yeah, Rich. So you turn your other thing off. Harry.
Everything should be good.
Now it's good.
Now,
That's better.
Okay. I might have been too close to my mic.
so
And then still getting it.
Okay.
try it now, Mike.
Already.
Try it now, James.
Yeah, no, still coming really, really bad.
All right, I'm going to mute you, Tim, and see what happens. How about now?
How about, well, that sounds way better.
It's working now. You might have your YouTube open there, Rich, now.
So what? Let me explain to what I'm doing. All right, here, come late March, I'm going to go in, put my hives down to 2 mediums, which is, I consider that single brood chamber. And then I go in there and I'm looking at the brood. Now, if it's really packed out, let's say I've got 2 mediums, I've got 6 frames, 8 frames of brood. I'll take about half of that capped brood, not open brood, but capped out. And I'll either put it in a weak hive, hopefully, or maybe make some nukes or splits from it. And
So equalize basically, right?
yeah, I'm equalizing. That's what I'm doing. And then I put a queen excluder on, put my honey super on, and they'll fill it, and I'll come back at least, depending on the hive, let's say once a week, or let's say every 2 weeks. And then take the stack down and go back into that brood chamber and continually to equalize throughout the honey season. And I'm like, okay, I'm touching that hive weekly or bi-weekly. Can I get away from that?
So
and
I would say you absolutely could. Now, once again, our seasons are so different.
I know, because you get in, your season starts in like the beginning of June.
Well, I was going to say I watch it, so we're going to get a little bit of nectar and stuff like that coming in, a little bit earlier, but we're not going to get a whole bunch. And that's really kind of the trick that I'm still trying to hone in on up here, is reading what is, when my nectar flow comes. And of course, the easiest way I could do that is to watch the bees. Mm-hmm. So I'll kind of carry on. So how do I do this? So when I have those 2 deep boxes on, letting the queen lay top and bottom, About I'm going to say, yeah, June first to second week of June, somewhere in there. Once again, depending on the bees.
Yeah.
That's where I'll go in now, and I'll either shake them all down into the bottom box, or if I can find the queen, if she's quick and easy, I'll make sure the queen is down in the bottom box. I'll throw that queen excluder on there, and then from there I will either make my splits, my nukes, or just leave that second box to hatch out. And as soon as that nectar flow comes, so I'm basically down to a single brood chamber, and as soon as I start seeing that nectar coming in, I'll drop one, or if I'm, depending on the season, and I know everything's kind of popping all at the same time, I'll drop 2 on there. And that's what we really have to watch, because when our flow turns on up here, it's kind of like all or nothing almost.
So you put a second deep on and let her lay up into that top box like Ian does?
Correct.
And then do you pull that off as a split?
I can. So it all depends as to what I'm doing. I will be doing that this year again. Yes. Obviously, my goal again this year is to, I'm not worried about the honey crop. I'm going to get honey just as a byproduct with bees. You're just going to do that. But my goal again this year is to grow. So that is why, I've been working so diligently and calling on Alan here as much as I am to build all the boxes, to build these pallets, to build these 6-way nukes. I mean, last year I was caught short of equipment. I do not want to get caught again. You only have to get caught once like that, where then you'll learn your lesson.
Yeah, but what I counted, you got 78 hives right now?
78 right now, yeah.
So that means
Rich Mike.
Yeah, he's got a there. So you're going to be up around 130 hives if everything goes well, plus your 3-ways.
Plus my 3-ways, correct. So there's 11 3-ways there, so that would be an additional 33 nukes.
I'm going to speak it into existence. It's going to be #James300.
That's what it sounds like to me.
The 300. That's what
you know what? I practice what I preach, Bob. So remember what I told you. Your goal should be just to grow and not get stuck on a number.
Right.
That is my goal. I'm going to grow, and I'm not going to get stuck on a number. If I went into the bee barn with 78 this year. If I go in there with 79 last year, I grew. If I go in there with 300, well, I grew a lot. So I honestly don't think I'm going to get anywhere around that. But and I can't tell you, because it really depends on the strength of the bees. That's what you need in order to make the proper size splits.
Right. And that's the I see you guys' brood boxes that they're just slam full. I mean, you could basically, if you didn't have a queen in that box, most of those boxes look like they could be timing boxes, right from the get-go. Starter finishers, boom, right there.
Could be. Well, you're in luck tonight, Charlie, because Alan's driving, but I do believe we are heading out to the bee barn. So I think I've got a runaway heater out there. The temperature, I usually try to keep it around 4 degrees. And earlier today, I didn't get an alarm, and we're not sure why, but it was up at like 9 degrees. So that is devastating for me. So we're heading out there to see what's going on there right now.
Were they?
Okay.
They could have been flying. They could have been flying in the building. You might have bee shit everywhere.
It might be dark.
And the thing is they won't. Well, it is dark in there, but still not at all what we wanted to do. I mean, it's plus 5 degrees outside here right now as we're driving out there. But the good news is if I'm still on this call when I get out there, maybe you'll see the same time I am. Maybe my season's already done.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope
not. Now, 9 degrees Celsius is what you figure.
It's in the 50s, right? Or close to 50?
Yeah, probably. 40. Well,
Yeah,
4 is 40 degrees. So, you're saying 9 degrees,
So-
9 degrees.
9 degrees is the warmest it got when I just had it. Probably would have got warmer, except I managed to look at my phone once again. It is all set up so that we get alarms if anything was to go above 5 or 6 degrees. So I'm not sure I don't know. Maybe I'll get
Laura says
building's
it's
on fire.
48 degrees.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Laura
48.
says it's 48 degrees. All right, James, do you need to get off and check that out? Sounds like to me you do.
Well, I can't do any faster. Alan's driving. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah, it's 48 degrees. Yeah, they might be. I think you're okay, but yeah, you definitely want to get down to 40. You know, drop it 8 degrees.
Oh, I want to get him right back down to 4 degrees.
Yeah.
So
For everybody that doesn't know James, he's up in Alberta, Canada, and he puts his bees in a enclosed building that's temperature regulated.
Puts them in deep sleep.
To sleep, yeah. Well, I mean, I also saw another guy in Pennsylvania. He said the same thing. He put a medium, I'm going to say, on top, either a medium or a deep on top. But the same principle as Ian, where you let the queen go up, and then you shake the queen down. You put a queen excluder in, and then you take that top box off as a split. And it's like, well, I don't really want to grow it like that. You know, I don't need to grow any more hives unless I make some nukes. I can do that for sure.
But you don't necessarily have to split, Charlie. That's the key of that. That's the real sweet thing about doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are, it's all about timing. So if you can get those bees to that high population by giving them that room,
Yeah.
and by allowing that, they're not going to swarm, and then drop another open honey box on top of that, and they're just going to keep going. So as those bees hatch out in that second box, they're just going to backfill that. And
Yeah.
that's really the key to a large population, which is going to bring you that honey crop. So you
Right.
don't have to split them. It's all about making sure that they have the room. And because
Well, I
that
was
second-
watching, I went back about 4 years ago, and you have that. He's a young beekeeper in Canada,
Devin Rowan.
Devin Ravon.
He's
Ever heard of him?
he's in Ontario.
I haven't heard of him. No.
Well, anyway, he had a deep box, and he did the mathematic thing about it, where basically there's enough room for her to lay, let's say, anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 eggs per day over a 21-day period for a brood cycle. And I forget how many, 70-some thousand cells in there, and she can lay, you know, over half of that. And then there's a certain percentage for brood, for a drone, for honey and pollen. And she shouldn't never run out of room, is what he was.
You're right, but the problem that doesn't take into account is where are the bees storing the honey?
Well, now he said, yeah, it's well, that was like the guy down here in Maryland. He's out of Pennsylvania. He said you've got to manage the honey. You don't want them to put any honey in the bottom. You want them to put them all upstairs, type of thing.
Right. So the trick there is have that bottom box balanced. And when I say balanced is you want her to be laying those cups up very, very shortly after the brood hatches from them. So there's a cleaning time and a buffing period and stuff like that. Absolutely. But you want it to be balanced as such so that she's got an egg in there or eggs in around there or larvae in around there so that they won't store honey in there. And that's really the key. That's kind of the balance that you've kind of got to get to.
Exactly. I made a video in it's a single brood chamber management video number 2. And that's where I explain the mechanics of that, where you want her to lay everything up in that bottom box, except for maybe a little bit of nectar and pollen in the corners, and, you know, rim it just a little bit. And that way you force the workforce to put everything upstairs into the honey box where you want it.
Right.
And
And that's why we do what we do, because if you put that second box on, she's more likely going to already have the bottom box laid up. So she's going to move to that top box, and she's going to lay that top box up, and that's where I was saying you really got to watch the nectar flow, because you want to get them shook back down and below, and in a timing matter, so that she's down back in the bottom box, laying that box up that is hatched out, right around the same time as the nectar flow comes on. So that way she's getting it laid up before the nectar flow gets in there.
right.
And that top box is hatching out right around that nectar flow. So that kind of gives them that place to put both. And it really is. And like I said, I'm still trying to learn that timing as to, when that exact sweet spot is, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then after that, you just keep stacking boxes. I always like to under super myself, and all that. I think that's the better way of doing it. To be quite, I mean, I know that I read an article and the science guy said, it doesn't matter, but I still say that common sense tells me that if you give the bees space exactly, right in front of them, that they'll go to that quicker than they will have to go over top of honey supers and that kind of thing.
And I can't argue with that logic at all. The problem I have is a limited amount of time to provide them the space. So it's just way easier and better time management for myself to drop another box up on top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was another. I mean, me and Bob were talking about a guy that Bob Benny put out on there, and he was talking about in his video where he's commercial, several hundred hives, if not more. And, he said he would spend a minute to 3 minutes per hive, just kind of looking at them, listening to them. He had I'll say an eye for what he was looking at to begin with, just the way the bees were acting, to know what he had to do with that hive type of thing. So,
well, that makes sense. I've never really thought about it, but I mean, I'll drive up to the apiary and I'm kind of taking a look at the, the
entrance.
The entrances and what's happening and where they're flying, and I'm looking at all of that stuff, as I drive up, and that's actually a very important part of my assessment. You can see very quickly which ones are the strong ones. You can see very quickly which ones are the lighter ones.
Yeah, so well, I've done, I do that here.
Until you just said it.
Yeah, I mean, I walk down my line of hives, and I look at how much traffic is at the entrance, trying to get in with entrance reducers and stuff like that. And I had one hive here. It was a 10 framer that it didn't have much traffic at all. And so this next time we had a decent patch of weather, I went right into that hive, and there was, once I popped the top off, I didn't even have to take the inner cover off. They were coming up out of the hole, checking me out. So I said, all right, we know you're in there. You just were lazy. You just didn't want to come out. It was too cold. and all that's but yeah, I'm thinking about also, I know that Laura is on tonight, and she does a demery where basically you're moving, and that's the thing, you're still going in, and that's why I was thinking about using the hive lifter that you have, is I could pull the honey supers off, go into the bottom box, pull my frames out, put my empties in, put it all back together real quick, and then the demery has a brood box on top where you put that cat brood upstairs and let it hatch out on that same hive instead of moving it horizontally to some other hive. And you increase you're giving that queen places to lay so she won't swarm on you. and they're putting the honey in, and you're also increasing your workforce of the whole hive in itself. So I might try a few of them that way this coming year, but it it's but you're saying you're giving them that extra box on top. Of course, now that's being, of course, you're actually wintering just one box.
Well, one deep
Yeah,
and
that's
one
right. You had a
medium.
medium on yours. Yeah.
And with this little oops that I had today, that actually might just save my butt.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're going to get feeding and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Well,
I don't. I was going to say I don't know whether your listeners know why this little spike could be detrimental. Is because no. So they've been locked in since basically the end of October, beginning of November. And, it's one thing that they haven't been able to get out and do a cleansing flight. But, with this temperature increase and they start feeding, well, they still can't get out and do a cleansing flight. So this is part of the reason this temperature spike is really, really worrisome for me, because the more they feed, well, like anybody, I mean, the more you eat, the more you poop. But, so... it is quite concerning.
yeah. I was talking, I guess Brad and maybe it was you. I don't know what it was. Brad was telling me where they actually dug into a deep box, single brood chamber after feeding, and they actually went through all the frames, and they found that every cell in that hive was completely full of nectar or honey.
That was Brad.
It was Brad. Okay. And meaning that, the queen couldn't lay anywhere because there wasn't any place for her to lay. But in your conditions, I presume after getting towards spring, they're going to eat up that honey. And then that will give her a place to lay and to start laying for the springtime and all.
Yeah, well,
So,
I'm more concerned with the. I'm not concerned at all with places for her to lay right now. I'm concerned more so with the not, no cleansing flights and stuff like this for the bees. I mean, I should still have another, good month and a half before I even consider taking them out of the barn.
Yeah. Yep. So,
I'm gonna take mine out of the barn in the morning.
You're what?
I'm gonna take mine out of the barn in the morning.
Yeah. So, stop rain. Was it stop raining down there?
It did. It's supposed to be in the 70s all week, so hopefully that's a good thing. But if I have any in the area that are trying to swarm, tomorrow will probably be that day.
There you go.
After a few days of rain.
What got me last year, why I had to fish a few out of the trees, wasn't because of the brood chamber management or anything like that. It was plain and simply they did not have the drawn out comb that they needed. So, and I'm going to be fighting that battle again this year and probably next year as well. So that's kind of the reason I had to dig some out of the trees. It I don't think it was due to mismanagement. I think it was due to lack of available space. And when I say space, drawn out comb for them to utilize.
yeah.
Is the as far as like feeding when they come out, I mean, is that imperative? I mean, you've got a lot of stores in there, at least you do at this point.
Well, and that depends on how the hives come out, right? So, I mean, if I take them out and they still got lots of food in that medium, then no, it's not as imperative to feed them the sugar water. However, that sugar water, from that will stimulate the hive and stimulate the queen, so she'll start laying. And the pollen patties are to provide them that protein. so that she starts laying. So even if there is a bunch of honey in that top super, yeah, they probably won't starve to death, but it's also about stimulating that hive and stimulating that queen to start laying, us to get that whole brood cycle started.
Right. So Michael Buck said, can you tell nectar from sugar water?
Inside the hive, once it's there, no. So, but basically what ends up happening is you can, how do I put this? I don't give them enough sugar water that they're going to store it. I try to give them enough sugar water so that they can directly use it. And when I say that, this is part of the reason I stay with the small pails. I don't use the large pails, because I don't want them storing that sugar water. And once I put a honey super on, I won't give them any sugar water because I absolutely do not want that combined. So, the only time I'll have sugar water on there, and the only point that they will use that is before I put any honey supers on.
Well, what about for drawing up comb when the season's first started and you put that feed on them? Will they not start that right away?
Absolutely, they will. Yeah, but you don't need, and that's the other thing that my tank isn't. I don't spend a whole bunch of time measuring, exactly 2 to 1 or exactly 1 to 1. It's I'm kind of fortunate up here in Canada because a liter of water is about the same as a pound of sugar. So we're it works out rather well for us. So if I throw 25 pounds of sugar in there, well, if I throw 25 liters of water, it just kind of goes, and I mix that up. So it's kilograms and liters. Sorry, not pounds and liters. I have to keep remembering to convert back and forth. But so yeah, one kg of water, or 1 kg of sugar and 1 liter of water gives you a 1 to 1. But I'll be honest, a lot of times it's you throw the garden hose in there until it comes up. Yeah, that looks about good, and away you go. So it's not. I don't get hung up on the exact 1 to 1 and 2 to 1. And
so your method and mine are pretty similar then.
Yeah.
Half syrup, half water. Yep, that's about 1 to 1. Let's go, and let it go.
And really, I mean, in the springtime, you want it actually a little thinner than 1 to 1. From what Bob Benny says, they'll actually do better, especially drawing comb and stimulus too.
He says the same thing in the fall. He actually was saying in the fall, if you take a look, you put one up last year where the hive will actually create with a little bit thinner sugar syrup. They'll actually create some hydrogen peroxide and stuff like this all inside the hive. I haven't had a chance to dig right into that science yet, but it does interest me quite a bit.
Well, I remember that video, and he was talking about he started out with really thin, and as the time progressed, he got a little thicker and a little thicker, depending on how late in the year. He was trying to build comb at that time. He was done honey season and that kind of stuff. But he was stimulating them that way. But yeah, it just right now I got plenty of brood comb, as far as that stuff goes, as far as splits and things like that. But no, I've just, there were so many different ways of, like the one guy said, leave all the brood in there and put the honey excluder on and the
honey excluder.
The honey excluder on, or queen excluder and honey supers on, and then just let it go. Now he said he might have 10% swarms. Well, if he has 200 hives, well, that's 20 swarms. I don't want 20 swarms. The last 2 years basically had 0 swarms.
I had 3 last year, and I kind of thought that was quite a few, and yeah. I'm only out there on the weekends. So I don't want to say you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. I will say you have to find something that works for you, and then you have to stick with that.
Yeah, I was going in there equalizing, and then I was talking to Laura here that's on the chat tonight, along with another lady. Actually, she emailed me her drawing that she did last year. And basically, brood chamber, honey, queen excluder, honey super, and then the brood box on top of that. And she was pulling brood out of the bottom, putting it upstairs, and giving, open comb for the queen to keep laying. And then adding honey supers. And one thing she was saying, is like, and I had the same problem. My honey supers got to be like skyscrapers. And I'm trying to put a 50, 60 pound full honey super on top. Oh, we just lost him. And so this year I'm going to set up my extractor. And when I get 80 or 90% capped honey,
You could always set you another box and just swap frames in and take those out.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cherry pick the frames out and keep my honey super level low. And then I'm going to extract that honey, and you got them wet supers. And then I'm going to take and put them right back.
Right back in the colony.
Right back into the colonies, and they're smelling like honey. That's going to be a big attractant. And it also reduces your dependence on a lot more boxes waiting in the wings too.
Right.
You can cycle, you're cycling out and cycling in, and that way
take out your what do you call it? The plastic box deal that you got for uncapped.
No, you mean that butler, the high butler? No, I'll just take an extra super. I'll pull all them honey frames out, make up, let's say 10 frames in a super so they don't fall out. And then I always have 2 extra lids. Actually, I went out last year, I guess it was. I bought four brand new telescoping lids, and I turned one upside down, put that super in there, and put another lid on top of it. Keeps the bees out of there after you blow them out.
Right.
Stuff like that.
I think
right.
It's all about.
So we got. I want to put this up here. Seth, I just want to let everybody know, Seth Hill, who works for Bob Benny,
started his YouTube channel.
He started his own YouTube channel, Seth Hill at Appalachian Bee Ranch. And
another bee ranch.
Yeah, another bee ranch. And he did have, it was the last video, not the last, but last week, Bob put out, because Go South, Young Man. And that was Seth that was in that video where he was attending to his bees down in, I'll say, southern Georgia, I'll say at the time, getting them ready, to bring them back up north and all that thing. Hey, Bugman. Hey, Laura. Let's see. Here we go. What's Laura say? I had only swarms the first year before I knew to Demery. I also pull honey each week. The bees like to build up their stores quickly with only one super on top.
Yeah, okay. You figure if they could fill a whole super in a week and you're out there, you could very easily just, while you're inspecting, drop the other super in, pull that super off, or, however you do it.
And now, Laura, if you want to, come on in tonight if you can. But I do know that you probably have, a brood box on top of that honey super. You have brood box, queen excluder, honey super, and brood box.
Some people do it with 1. Some people do it with 2.
But what they're doing, they normally pull that brood out of the bottom, put empty in, and they use it. And Demery normally puts a brood chamber on top of the hive, where those bees, right, and you bring the brood up, and with the bees, and
then all the bees come up. And
James
that's when I did it last. There he is.
He's in the barn.
I was going to say we're in the bee barn here. Yep.
Or he's out at sea. One of the two.
Nope. So
was on our
hey,
show.
Paul.
Can I switch this camera around? I don't think I can. So I'll just turn it around so you guys can maybe see what I'm looking at.
I see
So-
some plastic.
Yeah, so that's we got it. We got the bee barn basically divided in half here.
I'm gonna put this in solo layout. I think it is called. Or
So if you, I don't know if you can see this.
and we can't barely a six. Is it 6?
6.
So 6 degrees Celsius with 70% humidity in here. So part of the humidity is because I've cranked. I don't know if you can see the ductwork up there.
Yeah, I see that.
So I've cranked that on full bore here to try and cool it down. But definitely some additional bee drop because of the temperature. And I'll just wait till Alan's done playing with the plastic so maybe you guys can hear me. There we go. So I don't know if you can see on the floor, maybe what
I see some boxes or something there.
I'll get Alan to go
And
over
your
and
dog.
flip the switch for the light here just very quickly. Are you guys able to see that?
All right, ready to go. Flip them.
Just shut that one off, Alan, and turn the big light on quickly.
Black.
Well,
Yep. Okay, we see it.
okay, shut it off. There we go.
Not
So-
too bad.
So it's not too bad, but
That looks like a stepler floor to me.
yeah. Well, they're definitely lots and lots of bees. So
Are they on? I don't look like to me what I've seen on the front of the boxes. They're not like hanging out on the front, are they?
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to show you that now, but I'll have to maybe borrow another light. But Alan, you got your phone light? All right, I'm going to try this. I don't want to disturb him too much with all of the.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you do what you think you have to do. Yeah, okay, that all right. We see them.
Right, and they're like
Not-
that all the way along.
Well, that ain't too bad.
It's a beautiful thing.
So
I think you're in good shape.
all things considered, I'm in better shape than I thought I was going to be in. So yeah, we'll figure out.
So is the heater running or something, or what? The cooler or the chiller ain't running?
Well, that, and I think I had a runaway heater here, so I think I got maybe that's what the problem was. But
Was that like a
anyways,
electric box heater or something?
so I got a couple of them. So I've got a heat dish here that I can activate remotely, and
Right.
the whole building is electrically heated. So I think maybe what had happened is just this electric heat dish behind me. I think kind of maybe just took off and didn't want to shut off. But so, anyways, yeah. All in all, it could be a whole lot worse than what it was. So I think I might still be okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Now the ventilation tube up in the building there, that is drawing the heat out or drawing the hot cold air in like Ian does.
Correct. So I can draw it in. I don't know if you can see. There's a mixing box and everything up here.
Yeah, I see a square thing up here. Yes.
So that's a mixing box that pulls air in from outside or inside, and then up through the ductwork here, and then to the T, and it blows it down in between all of the hives.
Yeah, I see some holes in the side. Is that sucking air in or blowing out?
That's blowing air out.
Okay.
So
I see the heater over there sitting on a box or something. That looks like an old time electric heater there, off to your left.
Right here.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So what that was is when we had that minus 45 or minus 48 degree temperature up here,
Right.
all of the heaters in here couldn't keep up. That's actually an additional propane heater that I put in here as an additional source, and that was just enough for me to keep it right at the plus 4 degrees.
So what happens? I mean, so if it gets warmer than 4 degrees outside, then you have a chiller in there. So you're
Correct.
not okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, for everybody listening in, 4 degrees Celsius is 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And right now he's at 6 degrees Celsius, which is 48 degrees, I believe it is what Laura said.
Too warm.
Yeah, you're too active.
So what I'm looking for, just while we're here,
Yeah, 48 degrees is 9 Celsius.
is one of these. Because I know you guys are going to ask me when I'm going to do this. So just bear with me 1 second.
Should have wore your onesie.
Not today.
What you looking for?
I'll just get you to hold this, Jenna.
Oh, your heater, your hive heater.
So these are a couple of the hive heaters. Yep.
Now that's for your drones that you're going to try to
So this one,
boost.
This one is going to be one of the drones here. Yep. So you can see they're still plenty warm. I don't know if you can see that temperature.
It's 133. Oh, I lost it here. Okay. 130 or 13.3 Celsius.
Correct. So that's how warm it is inside the hive. So those, I know that both of those boxes are still full of bees.
But the heaters aren't turned on. That's just reading the inside temperature.
I'm going to turn on these before I leave. So I'm going to start warming them up. Alan and I are going to move the drone comb or the drone colonies to the place in Grand Prairie within the next week. And I'm going to start making, get her to lay all that up, and then we'll start on the drones.
All right. Lee says 13 degrees Celsius equals 55, almost 56 degrees.
Well, see, they would be flying here. So the only thing that keeps it from flying there is you keep it dark, right?
And cool, dark and cold.
So are you saying you're going to take these heater boxes out with drones and put them outside?
Correct.
Okay.
That way they can get their cleansing flights in and start doing things.
Correct. I will start stimulating them.
So what is your daytime temperature in your area right now on average?
Today it got, I'm in Alberta. So it could be anything from, let's call it minus 30 right now to plus 6, plus 7. And it rained up here all day today. As crazy as that is.
So I think you might have actually been warmer than us today. We only got to like 48 today, Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I think that's about where we were at after it started raining.
And I don't know if you can see up on the walls here, so I've got the exhaust fans as well. Let's see.
Yeah, I see them spinning some.
And that's because I'm pumping so much cold air in here. So, but that's basically it. That's the bee barn.
Means you have positive pressure in the building.
Right. I'll get Alan to bring his light over here one more time, so I'll show you what he just swept up here.
Holy moly, a whole trash can.
That's a whole trash can.
So that's what. That's not just today, but yeah, time to empty it.
That's like 3 of my colonies right there.
Hey, James, Dennis says a balloon flew over and caused heater malfunction.
Who knows?
That's the Chinese way to get back into the bee market, right?
Well,
Sabotage.
there's all sorts of rumors on that one.
Oh yeah.
Lee wants to know: are you able to monitor the CO2 levels?
I can, yep. So I can monitor all of that remotely as well.
So now, if the CO2 levels get too high, you just vent out the building.
I can, yeah. So it'll automatically vent, or I can turn it on and vent it. And if need be, we can lock the doors too. Nope, did I lose you?
No, we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
You're just black.
Yeah, it's because I'm outside the bee barn here now.
Okay.
So,
Well, I don't think the CO2 levels are. We were talking about that, about what takes to kill a bee versus a mite and stuff like that a while back.
So basically, I did a bunch of research onto that before I did what we did here. So my understanding is a mite can't handle anything over 45,000 parts, but a bee is good up to 65,000 parts. And I'll have to double check my notes on that because it's been a couple months now. But yeah, there's quite an envelope between where the bees can handle it and the mites cannot. So that's going to be interesting to see here in basically 2 months.
Hey, I'll tell you what might be something interesting for you to do is take a sample of those dead bees and do a mite wash.
Well, I don't think you're going to find any in there. So I did that earlier, and I didn't find any. But I'm interested to see what's on the bottom board of these hives when I bring them out. So I fully plan on doing a mite wash on every single colony. So if I come out of there with 76, because I know I lost 2 nukes, I plan on doing 76 washes. And I want to know exactly what the mite count is.
Yeah.
Well, I've been watching Phil's videos where he's doing his inside the building OA treatments and his different mite testing he's been doing. So that's been pretty interesting as well.
Well, what I'm really interested to see is what that count is. So now, in a perfect world, out of 76 washes, I don't see any mites. Now, I think that's extreme.
No, losing him in and out.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, you just missed it inside the bee barn.
Well, happy birthday again, Sean. Today is Sean's birthday. And
where's Sean located from?
He's in Michigan.
Michigan.
He was out painting nuke boxes today when I called him. With Phil the Bee Man, with his tests, he said that when he did the shake, it had 3 mites, right? But then it was almost 10 times as much that he was getting in the colony. So like if it had 10 mites on the shake, then he was finding 30 to 33 mites on the drop when he treated them.
Well, and like I said, that's awfully high numbers, but I'd be concerned with numbers like that personally. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting spring.
Well, I think your bees look good from what I saw in the gap there. They're on the bottom board and hanging down the clusters, so I think they look good. They look better than my bees do outside right now. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that James, you did a mite treatment and stuff like that, and I think that will make them healthier and more resistant to like these, like little bumps in the road, I'll call it, and everything. So,
but overall, I think you've had so far a pretty successful first year in the building, right? I mean, you haven't had too many hiccups and stuff like that in there. No,
this is the first big hiccup so far. So, And like I said, I'm going to go back and take a look, and I'm going to reset all of my alarms just to find out as to why and why why I didn't get the notification and why I didn't get the email, and everything is set up so that it should, anytime that temperature goes above, I think I got it set at, I think it's either 5 or 6 degrees. And I tested it quite extensively and quite thoroughly, but anything above 5 or 6 degrees, previously I would get, I think it was like every 5 minutes or every 7 minutes or something like that, I'd get another email and then another alert that would come through on the phone, and I didn't get any of that. So got to figure that one out.
Well, unless it's a poor internet service or something.
No,
But
actually, that bee barn's got a designated server and a designated internet provider. That's the only thing that is on that.
Yeah, and the thing of it is now, it did tell you what the temperature of the room was by that, though.
Well,
So-
and that's why I'm thinking there's something wrong with the alarms, because I could still see the temperature, and if I could see the temperature, it should have rang the alarms. But
Yeah,
anyways, we'll have to get that.
yeah,
one
you
figured
got
out.
a malfunction there of some sort. But that sounds. But at least I think you caught it in the nick of time.
Yep. Well, and now you can see, how long it takes me to get out to the bee barn. So it's not right beside the house. It is a little bit of a drive.
Yeah, but I think you got out there in about 15 minutes. if that. Of course, you probably were easing right along there.
Well, Alan was driving, not me, and we.
So
actually
now
stopped
it's
at
only what is it? It's 7:30 at your place. 8:30,
7:30. Yep.
Yeah, you're 2 hours. We're 2 hours ahead of you.
Got her.
So, and all that, and I guess well, you said it was cold and you had some rain or whatever.
Yeah, it rained all day today. So, I shouldn't say all day. It rained most of the day today.
Well, better than snow, I guess.
Well, no, actually, right now I'd prefer the snow. Well, I was gonna say my battery's dying there, guys. So I'm gonna let you go. I will see if maybe I can charge your phone up, and if you're still there when I get back to the house, maybe I'll join in.
All right. Well, thank you, James. Thanks for the tour.
All right.
And all, and we'll see you later if everything goes well.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right. See you now.
Well, that was interesting
Yeah, that was really cool.
to see inside the building.
Yep.
Y'all, I wonder what would happen if I had enough bees where it made it worthwhile to get them strong like that, and instead of putting them in a it's still regulated, but put them in a cold storage at 40 degrees for the entire winter, and put them in that slumber and then bring them back out. How that would work here in the South as compared to that up and down weather all the time.
I don't know. I mean, you're getting what, in the teens maybe occasionally?
This year we got I think a couple days when it got down to the 20, low 20s, and then but then it goes like it did, this past week where it was in the 70s, and then today in the 40s, right? So
Yeah.
it's just constant bounce where they get the fly, then then it's cold again. And I think it's just a lot of stress on them.
Yeah. Hey, Silver Gorilla. And Sean, James was in his bee barn. He had a temperature issue, and he was in there, I don't know, 5 minutes or more, showing us kind of like an Ian Stepler tour. And what he has, red lights all over his barn, and he had a malfunctioning heater, got too hot in there. And I think he swept up about a trash can full of bees, which I think that's kind of normal, I'd be honest with you. And for that size of a high area.
Well, in fairness, he did have trash underneath it, so it's probably not as much as it looked like, but
And
still a lot.
I didn't see that. I seen with some trash here and all that, but
you know,
anyway.
Ian's got them like in the aisles. It's like stepping on dead bees to get in there.
Yeah, but also Ian's got what? He's got 1,500 hives in there versus 75 or 78, whatever James was talking.
78, and then he lost the 2 nukes, so 76 is where he's at right now. Yeah, it probably would be, Lisa. You're right. I'm talking about if I had, you know, a lot of colonies, not where I'm currently at. It's not worth it. But
well, if you had a lot of colonies and located where you're at, all you'd have to do is drive a few hours and you're in the panhandles of Florida, where it'd be nice and warm.
That's true.
And then you could winter down there and then drive them on back up.
The
Yep, he's got
AC and storage 40 degrees in Illinois. Okay. So Blake lives in Illinois, but he owns Texas Bee Supply in Texas. Do they have multiple? I know they have multiple Texas locations, but I don't know that they have locations.
now. Phil, there, he's in Texas, isn't he?
He is
That's what I thought.
around Dallas, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But that's that's an interesting. You know, I've learned a lot listening to those guys up in Canada this year from the way they manage their bees. And granted, it's a totally different situation where their bees are locked in due to cold. And then when they come out, it's like they got a little bit of time and then bam, right to the honey flow, right? And then they hit honey flow the whole time. And then, it's called the bee supply. And then back in the barn for the winter. So it is a little bit different. So,
well, as I always say,
basic principles are the same.
Yeah. I always tell people, I say, if you want to keep your bees, listen, or, try to find a commercial guy to talk to if he'll give you some pointers. And it's like Brad was on here with his operation, and then James has been on here, and there's always some really nice tips and tricks that you can learn from these guys. Brad, for instance, the drone comb thing, where put it in the 3rd slot and they will put the drone brood there and set them up on top of your frame tops that are gluing your boxes together. And then you don't have all that extra time trying to clean that mess up. Some people do. I do. I try to clean it up. That way I can open up the boxes a lot easier. And that's a time-saving technique. And then I was really interested in Brad's thing about, I was talking to him about keeping the queens, really making sure my queens are no more than about 2 years old, and making sure that, I got young queens. And
then move them to nukes.
And
move those old queens to nukes.
Yeah, take the old queens and make resource queens out of them, and put your new queens in your number 1 production hives. So you don't have the swarming impulse as much there with a brand new queen for the first year. And then the old queen, you've got her in a nuke. All right, well, maybe she's still laying, but she's just not going gangbusters. And you can get all kinds of brood and resources out of her. You can make a nuke out of her. You could possibly sell her. Depending on what time of year that is. But, possibly getting her to maybe draw a comb out for you.
Right.
And things like that. You could stimulate her with some thin nectar, and that'll make her lay brood up, and you can make more splits. Like for me, when I put my 2-frame mating boxes out there, I have to look for a frame of cap brood, not an old larvae in there. And then I try to find a frame of nectar, or at least some nectar and some pollen, a good little balance for 2 frames. And that's where I'll walk my virgin queen in there that I hatch out of my incubator. And that was another tool that, and that Brad told me is like, let them, hatch that queen out in the incubator. I was always taking the cell out there and then go ahead and mark her. I know that, what's the guy in Brittany, France?
Richard Knoll.
Richard Knoll, he said he marked them in the incubator. And I was like, does that make that queen a target for a bird or whatever? Because she sees the whatever color it is. This year will be red. And so he said, yeah, he has good acceptance rates, and they come back mated, even though they're marked. Well, it's easier to mark them inside the incubator. There's no other bees to deal with but her.
Right.
And put her in a candy cage. And then it's like myself, I get, as the old fat bee man would say, I get tinkeritis, where I go out there and you put a queen cell in the 2-frame mating box. And then, you can't stand it. You go after 3 days and you see this cell where it has been chewed out. By that time, normally the bees have really cut the comb or the cocoon down to where you can't see the flap just laying out, knowing that she's been hatched. And then you're standing there for a couple hours and eating, going through all the little frame boxes, trying to find virgin queens walking around, which they say that seems to upset the bees. And sometimes that hurts the queen. Maybe they might ball her. I'm not sure, for some reason. And so now if you use a virgin theory, just walk her in. All right. First thing is, you already know there's a queen in that box because you've seen her walk in. So you don't have to go over there and waste time because of curiosity,
right.
And you got her already marked. So now when she comes back as a mated queen and she's laying, she's going to be really easy to find because she's already pre-marked prior to all the bees being in there. And then another thing is, if I've seen it where if you mark a queen, you change her smell with that paint on there. And sometimes they'll ball her because of that marking. So now when you let her walk in, she doesn't smell like like a mated queen. So they don't mess with her that much.
Right.
And I don't think she will, get bald because of the markings. And now, you kind of, you clean up all those extra times of finding and marking and this and that. And it saves a lot of time management here.
Speeds everything up. Well, that video today,
A3 boys and bees.
That video today that Bob Binney put up, that fellow said sometimes he can inspect the colony in 30 seconds a minute because he's not looking for the queen. He said he makes the splits. He'll see, he can tell very quickly afterwards if there's a queen or not a queen. Like if he comes back 3 days later, he can tell. And then he addresses
if you come back 3 days later, all you really have to do I have eggs? Because if you have eggs, let's say you moved her in the split. You go back 3 days later, the eggs are going to be all hatched and you won't have any new eggs. You won't find any. And if you go over here in your split and you see fresh eggs, you already know she's in this box. Now, I showed a new beekeeper. He wanted to come and help me out. And I did know that one nuke was queenless and one did have a queen. And I pulled the top off and the bees were up on top of the inner cover and they were calm and collect. And they were just kind of laying there on the wood because it was a summer day. So it was warm.
Right.
And they said, that they had an attitude of like, what do you want? And I told the guy, I said, what do you see? Well, it's just nice, calm bees. I said, yep. Now I said, now listen to them. And they had this nice, just a even hum, not, nothing, unusual about it. I said, I closed that hive up, went right to the next one next door, opened them up. Yes, there's bees up on top of the inner cover, but they're scurrying around all over the place like they're half crazy. And what do you see there? Well, they're kind of running around and they're kind of crazy acting. I said, yeah, they're frantic. And I said, now listen to them, without even really, well, I did take the cover. I think I took the inner cover off. And they had this big, loud sound, which is what we call the queenless roar. And by just the loudness of the buzz, without I'm talking, you don't smoke them or nothing like that to get them stirred up. You just open them up with your hive tool and they're having this big roaring buzz and they're scurrying around like crazy, like we don't know what to do and all that. You can pretty much tell that that's a queenless hive. And then I've also found, like I had this one hive, it would open them up and they would kind of blow right. They would just fly right up into my veil. And I'm like, that ain't right. My bees are not like that. There's got to have a queen issue here. A queenless hive is what I thought. But later on, it was one of them dark queens. And, I have dark comb. And sure enough, she was there. So that told me that, okay, we got a queen we need to get rid of here. She's a hot queen.
Hey, I'm gonna grab a drink real quick. There's a new guy in here, Gray Homestead. He was asking about swarms and stuff.
Hey, Gray, I see you down here. Let me see what to say. I put thanks for the reply. Three boys bees. I think you're new in our thing and want you welcome. We're here every Friday night at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time, and Sunday nights usually at 8:00. I'm either going to do it or maybe Bob will do it, depending who. We just sort of a no life beekeeper chat, a little bit of everything, and all that. And let's see. I was trying to find Greg's or Gray, home North Arkansas here when it's swarm season usually. So he's from Arkansas. Okay. And three boys, where are you located at, if you wouldn't mind? Let's see.
I'm back.
Yeah, Gray's from North Arkansas.
You trying to do a virtual map of where all your viewers are from? Look at that. There's Ian.
Well, hey, Ian. You just missed the excitement. James was
in his bee barn
over in his bee barn over there in Manitoba, or not Manitoba, but Alberta. He had a little bit of a heat issue. He got up to about 8 degrees, was it?
8 or 9 degrees.
Yeah, 8 or 9 degrees Celsius. But he's fixed it, I believe. And all. Doesn't look like he's had too much damage.
Southeast Tennessee. So he's
a
few hours from me. 4 hours or so, 4 or 5 hours. Blake says his bees in the AC. Ian says his shed's holding at 5 degrees.
Yeah, James's alarm system didn't go off like he had it programmed, but he could see the temperature, so they ran over there and seems to be able to fix the issue as far as ventilation and trying to get it down low.
Holy crap. What happened? I just got 3 more orders on the Amazon. Well, hey, check this out. So this was a happy accident, okay? So I didn't know about Mike Berry's video, right? But I knew
Hey,
about
Grayson.
Ed's video. This whole box is filled up with orders of swarm lures going out.
Well, that's good.
Different varieties. So, yep, it's definitely a blessing. And now I've got 3 more to add to this box that I got to take to the post office tomorrow. Because it won't all fit in my mailbox. I'm going to have to buy a bigger mailbox.
Well, that's good.
So
that's what you wanted anyway. You know,
thanks, Lisa. I might be scared for my bees with the mild weather. My shed should be higher. No, you're good. Your bees are good, man. I think Ian imports like tragedy so you can have a good vlog. Look, he takes his oldest equipment out there and floats it down the river so people can see. He's got carry over on the side chucking boxes in the stream, right? And he's on the other side as they're passing by filming.
Oh, that's kind of bad. That's bad.
He's laughing.
James says the freight train is coming. I guess that's bad weather or something. I don't know.
He's like, well, Carrie, you don't have any queens to mate right now. So take that pallet of boxes, just kind of take the hive lifter and just kind of dump them over in the stream there so I can get some footage of them floating down the river.
Well, maybe he's got some farm insurance. That way he can get new boxes.
Right. Then he can go to the insurance and be like, hey, yeah, I need some new equipment because it just floated down the stream. We're on to you. We're on to you, Mr. Stepler. We're on to you. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, my.
No, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I'm just poking some fun, making some light. That's it. It's pretty interesting that the different techniques that we have to do on different places in the world to try to achieve the same goal, right?
All right, good news coming up here.
Barn is back down to 5.
Yeah, AC is working. Barn is down to 5 degrees Celsius now. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, that's that is definitely a good thing. So you guys will be rocking it here before long. I mean, the only thing that here is those 30-degree temperature swings that are just brutal on the bees. So, we don't get that long. We do get obviously there's no way to measure it, but I guess I'm assuming that we get winter bees like everybody else. But at the same time, I can't really say we get winter bees because we have brood all the time, just smaller amounts during the cooler times of the year.
Well, Grayson, 5 degrees Celsius at 4 degrees Celsius, 40 degrees. And so I would say 5 is, I don't know, 45 degrees, something like that.
Yeah, see, that's what he should have played, Randy, on that soundtrack. Rolling down the river. What'd he say?
I'll be back here in a minute. Take over, Bob.
Take over. Look, see, I'm the co-pilot tonight. Since Lee has ditched us to watch Yellowstone in 1883 with his woman. Yeah. But yeah, so things are definitely in the next 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, I'm probably going to go down and pick up some queen cells and start doing that thing, right? Getting it ready. Got nukes coming, got some more boxes coming. I've got to order I'm going to order some more frames and some Pro Nukes and get ready. Get the stuff ready. We got to get it going. So it is definitely time. And you guys have blown my mind with these swarm lure orders. So thank you. I ask one thing, is if you ordered on Amazon, please leave a review. I'm not saying you have to leave a 5-star. 5-star is preferable, but please leave a review. Timely shipping, whatever. Obviously you haven't tested it yourself yet, but all that helps that algorithm. And with that algorithm, that's how it gets out to more people on Amazon. So please do that for me. That would help me. And Joe's back with his Diet Coke and his pretzels.
Yeah, and a bag of cheese.
Hey, at least you didn't bring the squeeze cheese in the can. Remember the cheese in the can? The cheese in the can?
Oh, the cheese whiz?
Yeah, the cheese whiz in the can.
Yeah, I never like that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh, they're doing math now. You guys stop.
All right, southeastern Colorado highs, let's see, 5 degrees Celsius plus it equals 41
degrees Fahrenheit. So it's almost back where it needs to be.
Yeah, for 4 degrees is 4 degrees is 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I do know that.
Hey Paul, you put the pollen patties on. Did you put whole patties or did you cut them into smaller sections or how did you do it? I'm curious because of the hive beetle issues. And mine'll eat pollen patty, but they don't. I mean, and it's probably because we have natural pollen out right now that they don't just devour it like they do when you see on Cayman's videos or like Ian's videos when they slap that mass, the whole slab of patty on there and then it's gone, right? Mine don't do it like that.
Well, it's like here, what was it? 2 or 3 days ago, I put a bucket of pollen powder out there, some Man Lake, like Ian does, where he puts that whole 50-pound bag out there and it's gone in 2 hours. But they never touched it because then I went over to the hives and I looked at the entrance and watched, and natural pollen was coming in. So they're not going to touch it. And,
speaking of Canada, something just popped in my head, guys. So the Canadian Amazon rep sent me an email today that they are wanting to help me fix my Canada blocked my swarm lure from being sold on Amazon because I don't know, they've got some kind of laws, and even though it's a lure, because of the nature of the product, I guess just a broad spectrum thing that they have, they say they have it listed as a, what do you call it? Now I can't even think of the word, but like, a pesticide. I'm like, well, it's actually the exact opposite of a pesticide, but, okay. Guess Canada just don't get it till I ship it to Dancing Bee. So
actually, 4 Celsius is 39.2 Fahrenheit.
You had to validate the thing there, Charlie?
No, James just sent me a
screenshot.
Some kind of a thing of a computer or whatever. Randy says, let's see, Charles. Go Rama? What do you mean by that? I don't get that. Food channel, Charlie's food channel.
Oh, yeah. Charlie, I'm telling you, you need to get with a popcorn company and get you a small bag and put Charlie's famous popcorn on it. And you would sell it just through your YouTube channel.
That's something.
Absolutely would. Absolutely, you would. So this first order is going to Massachusetts. Swarm lure, Massachusetts.
So, are they going to be able to get your stuff across to the line?
Once, well, I'm gonna Amazon. They've got to correct their shipping or their thing, so it'll be able to be sold. As far as Dancing Bee, it is whatever I say it is in the box, right? When I go to ship it. So when it comes up to that, so we'll see how that plays out. I'm just printing packing lists as they're coming out.
Gray, who's are your guys' top 3 beekeepers? There's none around here in Maryland as far as being a top beekeeper.
You can say me, myself, and I. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I like Ian Stepler. I don't know that I have favorites. I mean, there's so many out there that give out good knowledge that for me, the ones that I watch the most, I'm subscribed to so many that it's just whenever they pop up in my feed and notification. But, I watch Bob Binney. I watch a lot of the guys that are in the stream, James, Brad, Ian, Michael Palmer. Geez, I'm probably forgetting as many as I'm naming. Devin Rawan, I've watched him a lot. Mr. Ed. Just depends what you're into.
Well, the main thing about all these different YouTube beekeepers is depending on what type of information they're offering you. If you want to talk about cutouts and swarms, you got Mr. Ed and you got Randy McCaffrey, which is 628 Dirt Rooster. If you're into, I'll say bee management, I mean, Ian and Bob Binney are good information. Take their information and learn you have to apply it to where you live at. That's the key issue here.
That's $1 million worth of nugget right there. Because when I started beekeeping, I was watching techniques and trying to apply them. But by the time I went to apply them, like let's say I watched Cayman Reynolds' channel and Cayman said something and he's doing whatever technique he's doing. And I try to emulate that. Well, Cayman's 3 weeks behind me. So when he does it, I should have already done it like 3 weeks ago. And so
you're ahead of him. Okay,
right.
Yeah.
So I've already missed the window. Right. Which I experienced that hard last year too. Things that I was doing was after I should have already done it. And which means it kind of set me back a bit. Right. So that's a real thing in beekeeping, which if I would have known that when I started, would have saved myself, a few colonies. I'll say that much. And a lot of money. So.
Well, I mean, if for here, yeah, well, let's see. I guess I'm behind Cayman if I was looking at him, definitely behind him because I was down in Knoxville learning how to graft and their blooms were on in March and we weren't even thinking about it. It was almost 60 degrees down there and it was barely 40 up where I live. So that's what you have to watch.
So see, even the swarm lure goes back to beeconomics. So that's like my favorite topic, right? Beeconomics. So this swarm lure, these sales help me buy the boxes and frames that I need for this upcoming year, right? And so it's just more flipping bills. Dollar bills, y'all. Dollar bills, y'all. I know you've heard. Well, most of y'all probably haven't heard that song, but it's not about being wealthy. It's about funding my operation. And I don't have the honey production that other people have. So I've had to find other ways, right, Charlie? Other ways to generate that money to expand where I want to go. And
Well,
then at some point, I don't want to expand anymore. Then all of a sudden, that money doesn't roll forward as much into the other stuff, right?
what's happening, Frank?
When I missed something, you should have watched last. Yeah, that's it. I should have watched last year's videos. Well, the thing was, you look at it, and what I try to do is look at the month that they were put in, right? So if it said, well, this video was posted 12 months ago, well, then I know that, okay, it was last February when that happened. So I kind of tried to do it from that aspect. But when I first started, I didn't know that. So that's the good piece of nugget right there. Let me see. Orders. All right, so I've got two orders pending. So
All right, James just sent me a I guess you call it a picture of his temperature readouts. So basically 71% moisture or humidity. I've got 3 indoor temperatures, and they're running between 5 degrees Celsius and 4 degrees Celsius. And it's 23 degrees Celsius outside. So it looks like he's got it under control.
So Ian says, talking to Cali beekeepers this morning, it says there's a heavier losses out of the sheds than expected, 30% anyways. So, I talked to Jose this past week, and, we were talking about the price of pollination services this year, how I had heard it was lower, running lower, they're paying less than they had in the years before.
What, in the almond, you said?
Almond fields. And so beekeepers have said, I'm just not going to bring them out there this year. Then it's not worth it for me. And now he's saying that the prices are starting to come back up. And I think he said he had 1,500 hives that didn't grade out, that now he's looking for 1,500 hives to fill contracts. The farmers are, because they were too cheap on the contract, and people didn't want to bring them. And then when the ones that they got came out there, they didn't grade out, right? So they couldn't use them. And so now the farmers are starting to get the idea, well, you pay good money, you get good bees. You pay low money, you get substandard, and so the prices are starting to come back up again. So that is hopeful for that. But, with them losing colonies down there, that's not a good thing.
Well, I do know my friend who he goes to the American honey producers and those type of high-end commercial conferences. And he was talking about, like, depending on the crop of almonds, where they might have a bumper crop of almonds, and depending on whether or not there's a high demand for almonds, for them to sell their silos full of, they're like grain silos, I guess it would be. And then it's like, okay, well, we don't really need to produce a lot of almonds, so we don't want to pay a lot of money because we got all this almond supply backlog from the year before or whatever.
Right.
So I'm not sure whether that had something to do with it or not. Who knows,
But, you're just one accident away from not having that anymore, And then you don't have the backlog. And then because you didn't have the pollination this year, then all of a sudden, now you're at a deficit, right? So I doubt they have Ian Stepler's contingency plan going on with all the nukes and everything in the background as far as almonds, right? So they probably don't have, they just have that storage. So they're just one all shucks away from something bad happening, and then there's no crop there. Let me see. I read the one colony load. They say the bud set looks promising, so they are starting to stock heavier to capture better crop. Well, that'll be good. I mean, Jose said that, and I asked him about like double booking, right? So let's say you send them out early and you get a early crop, and then you get a little bit, like they move them from one field. Let's say I send bees out there and they go to one farmer, and then after they're there for 3 weeks, they go to another farmer. They said, well, that's okay, but if you get stuck, like something happens in the rains or whatever, and then you have to stay out in that first field a week longer, then you could possibly miss that second contract, right? And then your Martin lost 60% of their bees already in the almonds. Ooh.
I don't know who Martin is.
Says Martin Bees lost 60% of their bees. Well, hopefully Bruce's bees are okay out there then.
Well,
and also with the pesticide thing out there. So I was Jose said that there's 2 different types of farmers out there. The ones that'll give you the heads up to move your bees, and the ones that figure they're paying it, so you just get whatever they give you type of thing. So if they spray and well, I was trying to keep it G-rated, Ian, but you had to go there. I was trying to be family friendly.
So they had a drought last year, so the prices of almonds went down. And that's why they probably weren't wanting to pay a whole lot this year.
Well, now they're having to, because they're lowballing. Well, see, they're lowballing the price, but the expense to getting the bees out there has gone up, right? Feed has gone up, fuel has gone up. So if they at least paid last year, why should the beekeeper have to be the guy that takes it, the bottom of the rung guy that takes it in the shorts instead of them, right? Oh no, it's gonna be the beekeeper. We're gonna lowball them. Well, then the beekeeper just says, well, you know what? I'll just move them somewhere closer, that maybe down to Florida to the citrus trees, and save some money. Save some money in shipping, and make some money. I don't know how much they pay to pollinate in any of those places, guys, but it's just
so Ian, do you know how much that he pay per? Well, actually, I think Randy already told us that about $200 a hive, I think, but they get about $100 after overhead is paid out.
They got to pay for the shipping. Excuse me. They got to pay for the shipping. They got to pay for
that's what them cigarettes do for you.
Yeah, I know.
You got to get rid of them things.
I do. But you know what? I know they're bad for me, but they're saving people's lives. And when I say that, other people's lives, because I would choke the shit out of somebody if they pissed me off and I wasn't smoking. So I can keep that urge down and just light a cigarette. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking, guys. I know there'll probably be some kind of hate somewhere going on with that statement, but it's is what it is. I get it a lot on my videos. People trolling about whatever. Meanwhile, they do nothing productive.
Yeah.
But so, Charlie, what is coming up next for you? What do you got going on?
Well, they say next week is supposed to be in the 50s and 60s. So I want to get back into my nukes, check the fondant that I put on them. because they're a bit on the light side. Even though I fed them heavily in the fall, they seem to eat up their stores a good amount.
Bob, you're never getting into Canada now.
Hmm?
Philip said, Bob, you're never getting into Canada now.
So I'll probably, let's say Wednesday or so, something like that, depending on the weather. I'll get out there. I'll put more fondant on. And, if the weather settles and stays warm, which I don't think it's going to, I would put some liquid on there, but I don't think that's good right now because it's fluctuating too much. Like right now it is, I don't know, it doesn't say it. It's 35 degrees. It says a wintry mix, but I don't see any snow out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, mine's saying 44 with 94% humidity. So that's the.
They were saying $20 less this year, but all of the sudden it's $20 more now that they realize guys are being
in
short
short sheds. Bees coming out dead, DOA out of the sheds.
Yeah. And then Rich here, he's out in Texas. It's 80 degrees right now. Man, that's hot. Rich, did you finally figure out what the back feed was? I mean, usually when I have that problem, I've got the volume turned on YouTube and I'm on live stream at the same time and it's back feeding.
This one's going to Alabama, but it's not Miss Lisa's. I don't think. Unless she changed her name.
All right, Rich, that's cool.
Do what? What do you say?
He's going to troubleshoot it tomorrow. Mark Miller, he's
Probably getting ready to go driving in the morning.
probably, maybe. And now Bob, he just moved honey from my big hives to my nukes and added patties. I got patties on my nukes right now. And all while this bad weather is, they can eat on the patties and build them up.
See, mine don't take pollen patty down fast like that. Well, there's a couple.
Mine doesn't either, but I think you got 70-degree weather. There should be something blooming in your area. So I would say that you have your pollen.
Natural pollen's coming in.
Natural pollen in your area is probably probable most of the months of the year for you.
Obviously, it wasn't in December because they were killing my dry pollen.
Yeah, but make note of that. I have that little color note program on my phone, and I make a diary. Make note that they're eating pollen at this time. And that way next year you have a general idea when you need to do those type things.
Yes, that's the thing. That's what Rich said too, that they're bringing in natural pollen. They don't want anything to do with the sub. Tells you the pollen levels, like ragweed and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. But that's what I do. It's just a little program. I can sit there and actually voice dictate it. I have to, watch what the automatic spelling is and all that stuff, voice recognition. Instead of writing the word.
When you say wash, it doesn't misspell it.
No, when I say hives, it'll say HIGH, like high,
like
instead
hives.
of HIVE. And things like that. And when I say nuke, it's NUKE, like a nucleus, stuff like that. But I go back, I put the date down, I put the weather conditions down, what the weather is at the time, and then I give a general. I dictate a general information what I did in the apiary in general across all the hives at the time, and that helps out a lot. And all that would be good for you. Start, where you're at. And like if you're, let's see, here it is, what, February, you've got natural pollen coming in. Did you have natural pollen coming in January? I don't think you did you?
No, a little bit.
So it sounded like to me, your area, I'll say December and January is no pollen. And then it starts back up in February about this time, almost mid-February.
Here's Grammy's order finally came through.
Rich there, he says there's 3 to 5 bees out of 10 are carrying pollen in. That's a lot of pollen coming in.
Now you got to watch you don't get pollen bound.
Well, that, and another thing is, he's in an area where they have a drought, and I'm surprised that there's pollen, for him, because the plant's not getting enough water.
I think they did have a little bit of rain.
Yeah, I think you do.
Oh, the blackberries are starting to bloom down there in Louisiana. Oh,
Now, this is really good. Silver grub, look at your larvae, and if they have plenty of jelly, you're good. And that's exactly right. That means, depending on whether you got any food coming in, any nectar, as far as, you want your larvae kind of swimming in a pool of jelly, that way you've got good bee population growth there.
I'm kind of excited for Rich at Timeless Honey. Last year at this time, he was just getting some boxes, getting his stuff ready. He was going to capture a swarm, and he ended up with a cutout late in the year. So this is his first real season of beekeeping, right? But he's been doing his due diligence and getting his training and getting in with his mentor and doing the right thing. So I'm expecting this year should be a good year for him.
Yeah. And he's, like you say, he's been doing the education part of it. He knows what to be looking for. And that's good.
So now the only thing is you got to make sure you got enough equipment for what's going to happen to you this year, because you didn't get them till September.
I don't know. I think I've seen some videos.
Yeah, he got another box, right? He got some more gear. But
he got some. He made some lids and boxes and.
Yeah, but like I'm talking honey supers and draw and comb. He doesn't have that, right? So.
No, but he's got the equipment there, so all he has to do is drop on a box that, with honey supers, and hopefully the bees will come in and draw it out for him. He says he's got 4 boxes.
He did have some equipment that he had set up that wasn't used last year too, so he does have that. So, yeah, you should be good. Just make sure you wax those frames, get them ready, because when it hits, it's probably going to hit pretty good for you.
And see, Phil's got.
So over half my bees with pretty decent orientation flight classes. This means we are at least 21 days into some decent brooding. Yeah, that's what I'm starting to notice too, especially like after the rain or something of cold days and they get out the first time and you start seeing those cleansing flights and orientation flights when they come out. Yep. And that would be what I would probably do. What you're saying right there.
That's what you need to do.
Well, that's what you need to do. But we can't give that advice, because if something goes bad, then they'll be like, you told me to do that.
No, I'm telling you, Bob, you need to take Rich's advice there. Technically build them strong and then do some splitting.
Right. Well, yeah. So I can make the case that I did that last year. My timing on the splits was off. Right. So that
you just did it too early because you had a cold snap. And now you know, and
I waited longer, like a good beekeeper, like a good little beekeeper. And
the biggest thing for you is take notes, like I said, about when you're doing things.
it's like a rock.
And you know, you made a mistake last year. Now you know that you said you were going to do it later in the year
And I have.
when things are more settled. That's good.
So things that I do have to check the split that I made the other day to see if they're making any cells in it this week. On a nice day, and see what's going down, man. See if we got some queenage coming in.
I don't think they're going to swarm on you. I mean, it sounds like to me you've looked in there. You see what they got.
I've been trying to do a little equalization, and my smaller.
Now, have you made some nuke splits yet already? I think.
No, not technically. The one I did the other day could have went in a nuke box, but I put them in a poly hive, poly 10 frame,
Right.
And with some some stores and stuff.
Well, why not that poly 6 frame?
Yeah, I do have that other. I do have that poly 6 frame that I'm gonna.
Well, I mean, keep them tight. Keep them tight.
Right. Yeah, I could have done it in there too. So.
Where's Silver Grill? Where's he located at?
Tejas. He's in Texas as well.
Oh, he is?
Mm-hmm. Ed says his girls keep making queens, so he keeps splitting them. See, and that's what was happening with me last year, and that's what kind of put me on the ropes a bit, because I started splitting those queen cells into other boxes, and it was a little early. But I think you're on point right now with the way things are going this year. I mean, really, anytime around this time is when people start doing their splits here. But I'm trying to wait for another couple of weeks, and that way I'll split them and then go get cells, and then introduce either the cell or let them hatch in my incubator, and then introduce them, right? So that's going to be the goal. And the other goal is to make sure I don't take the queen out of the mother colony and put her in a nuke on accident, like I did on one of them last year.
Now, who Rich is talking about John and Charlotte. Who is that?
That's his mentor.
Oh, okay.
It's 35th anniversary. I am getting cells from Q-Tick. At least that's the plan.
Make sure that you remember to take your little heater box.
I got it. Hey, you guys would be proud when I cleaned up for my video. I actually put it back in its case with the cable all nice wrapped up right there. It's not just sitting around. Yeah, that's kind of what I've done is the two vertical splits. I let them pick how many bees they needed to cover the brood, right? And through the queen excluder. And the other one, I used donor frames of brood out of 3 different colonies. And also on top of the brood that I gave them extra shakes of bees as well. So that hopefully will keep their numbers where they need to be long enough for a queen to come back mated and start that process. And let me see here. And that was the thing. That's where I was missing the boat, guys. I was doing the old good old barnyard bees light splits and let them make queens, and it did not fare well for me last year. Well, may have if my timing would have been right, but yeah, it didn't for me last year. But it's all good. What James say? the best lessons you learn are the hard lessons, right?
Yeah, as long as you make sure that you don't do them again the next year.
Yeah. Well, I've got 3 screen bottom boards.
You mean your double screen?
Yeah, double screen boards. Sorry. Well, I do have 2 screen bottom boards now because those licensed polyhives, not the nukes, but the full size polyhives do have screen bottom boards on them.
Huh.
So I'm using those on 2 colonies, and I'm thinking about doing who is it, Bob Benny or Ian that does I think it's Bob Benny that just goes out there. If he's got a double deep and it's strong, he'll pull the double deep apart and just put the bottom board right in between them. And then one will have a queen and one won't, right? And then one will make a queen and one has a queen. So he doesn't, spend the time looking for the queen in that instance. So my question is, how long do I wait before I remove that double screen bottom board and give them their own, like move them and put them on their own colony?
You mean their own place in your apiary?
Yeah, in the apiary, yeah. So after the queen's in there and laying for a little bit, or
now Bob Benny was doing some early splits, and he came into a single brood chamber management. He did like you did, where he poured the brood up into the top box, put the queen excluder in, came back the next day. The bees are upstairs, and
put the bottom board in.
He has the queen, and he knows he's got his queen in the bottom. Put the double screen in, and then he put a cell in. I'll say maybe a mated queen, and then he come back. If it was a cell, let's say it was a cell, it's going to take at least 2 weeks for her to get the lay-in.
Like how you say that, for her to get to laying. Get the laying, girl.
And, made it laying and all that stuff. And then you're trying to use the heat off of the bottom box
to help keep it warm enough.
Help keep it warm, keep the eggs, the brood, because it's going to be a small cluster. So I would say 4 weeks at least. Well, all right, let's say it's a cell, and you figure 2 weeks. All right. And then she's come back, she's mated, she's laying up and everything. Well, then you got 3 weeks, 21 days for the worker brood to hatch.
Right.
And you'll want that heat there. So there's about a month and a half there. You kind of have to judge on the queen and how well they're getting along. Then you got to also look at what time of year it is and how warm it's starting to get.
Right.
So as time passes, hopefully your environment is going to be getting warmer and staying warmer, especially at night.
Mark says 34 days.
There you go.
So
let's say
put it right around 1st of March.
5 weeks.
Yep. And then I'll move her over to her own spot. Of course, now those forager bees, they're gonna, when you move, right, they're gonna find their own deal going on. But if that's a strong colony underneath, that means in 34 days they've at least had one full brood cycle, and she's laid it back up again. So technically, you could go back to that same colony, do the same thing again. And now that just became a colony breeding colony, right? You're just a machine.
A brood factory.
A brood factory. Of course.
30. He's Phil, it's 34 before you move that top box off after you made a split off of a double screen board.
While it's cold, right? You could probably do it earlier if it was warm outside.
Yeah, you could.
Or not even use a double screen bottom board at that point, just make a split.
No, well, yes, you could do that. You could have made the split, take it over to wherever you want a hive to be at if it's warm. at night. True.
Let's see.
And if you're doing I've had them do where I've been working the apiary. You go in there, you make pull your brood up, put the queen excluder in, shake all the bees off, of course, and then the nurse bees will come up, and then you can pull that box off as a split.
Right.
I've done that in my hives on my nukes, and I came back 15 minutes later, maybe 20 at the most. And then bees, they were packed up there. And I mean, you don't have to wait a whole 24-hour period. Give them 30 minutes and you can go back there if it's a small 5-frame nuke that you're trying to do splits off of. And you're done.
Yeah, see, so that's kind of interesting because, we're talking about making splits that are strong enough, right? Off a colony that's strong enough. So if you're taking a split off a 5-frame nuke, really you're talking about a double 5-frame nuke, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm talking about 5/5, which is 10 frames, but
Right.
it's vertical. And that makes a huge difference because the bees like to go straight up. And that was one thing that Michael Palmer talked about this last Saturday when he zoomed in, and he was talking about why he used nukes versus a 10 frame. Yes, it's still 10 frames, 5/5 versus you're making a horizontal, a 10 frame is more of a horizontal hive.
Right.
And as the farther out you go, the cooler it is. So he was saying, in order to, it's kind of a catch-22 thing, a vicious circle. He said, you got 5-frame nuke. All right. She lays up the area. You got bees. They're going to cover it. And those bees are going to hatch. Now, he says, you got the thermal, it's like another guy that's passed away now.
Thermal bubble thing, right?
Well, the thermal column is what they call it.
The heat rising up.
Yeah, basically, he says if you have 5/5, now the heat from this hive here, or from the first box, is going to rise. So that means that the queen will go up there and start laying because it's warm.
Right.
And then there's plenty, and that as this population is hatching, now we got nurse bees, we got more worker bees. It's warm. The warmth is all there, and it's going straight up, and they'll produce more. Whereas if you have a 10 frame, you're going wide. The heat is still in the center of that brood nest. It's not radiating outward. So she doesn't have enough worker bees in the beginning to go out of that heat envelope, let's call it,
Right.
to the outer combs to lay, because they're going to get chilled.
Sorry.
Whereas if it's in a 5-frame, you condense it down, heat rises, it's all vertical. She'll do much, much better.
And now
that's what I try to teach or say about my folks in my club area and stuff like that, is that don't look at the nuke box as just a box. It's an actual tool. You can do so much with that. All right, you got swarm cells on a frame, and let's say there's 4 of them. There's like 2 puny ones, and then there's a couple big ones. Well, you can't really go by the size either, but we got to do something. So you cut 2 out of the 4 out, take the bees on the frame, put it in a nuke box, either a 3-framer or 5-framer, and put the bees, in that situation, do the same thing. Bring up the frames that you want in that box, put a queen excluder in, suck the bees off of that nuke box hive, and 30 minutes later, take it off and put it on its own stand. And then I would lock them up for 3 or 4 days, and then they would stay there. After 4 days, pull the screen out. make sure that you give them sugar water and plenty of ventilation and all. And and it works, you know. I love my nuke boxes. They're nice and light, easy, and things just do much better with them.
So have you evaluated? Now, obviously, you've got a licensed nuke, the 6-framer, right?
Yeah.
How about the? Hey, Kenneth, I recognize that name. He ordered some lure from me from both sites.
How about a double nukes for honey production? Yeah, I've done that. I've had them where I've put foundation up there and I've had them pull the foundation out if there's long as there's a good flow. And she's put an egg in there and the darn wax wall was only maybe 1/8 of an inch tall. So they
Mhm.
had to actually build the wax comb up to get up over top of the egg. And then I've had them where actually I do every year. I have about 20 nukes and I will go through them. Some of them might be, you know, I might have 3 deeps on there, and the top deep will be more like a honey super. And I do have queen excluders for my nuke boxes, and I put them on there, and I let them make honey for me.
Well, how about the the licensed nuke? Do you find that they build up faster in the licensed nuke than they do the wooden nukes because of the thermal dynamics of it?
If you go through the winter, they eat a whole lot less food. And I thought in my, you know, I was thinking, okay, wait a minute. If they're kept warmer, they're going to be more active and they're going to eat more. That's what my thought process was. And now what it amounts to is that if they're kept warmer, they eat less because if they're in a wooden box and it's cold area like get, they are eating more to regulate the heat in that core, you know, of the bees.
Right.
And they're eating more. They're disconnect their wings and they're shivering in order to compensate for the severe cold temperatures. Whereas it's like Ian's shed and James's shed, they keep it at 40 degrees. Well, they keep them. It's right at that point where those bees, they don't hardly eat anything, but they don't have to shiver because it isn't extreme. It isn't 20 degrees or 5 degrees below zero or something like that.
Right.
So that's the beauty of the insulated hive.
And because, like with me, with the temperature swings, that they don't notice it as much.
It's even. Another thing is, I used it on yours. You got 4 holes up in the top.
I got them blocked.
I got them blocked. I had one neighbor had them, you know, well, I don't use the sea felt. I don't use what do you call it? The propolis trap. That's what they use to keep them from putting burr comb up inside that dome lid.
Yeah,
and it's a dome lid because that's where the feeder fits up inside when you put the lid over top of the feeder.
Yeah, I got my feeders on mine right now with a little bit of feeder. Not a lot, just a little bit, you know.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't have any up entrances. I don't have any ventilation in the top. There are 4 ventilation circles in the bottom. I closed 3 of them up and left 1 open.
I got all mine right now.
Right. So anyway, there was no moisture issues. That's what most people get confused about. They'll say about moisture. I said, well,
the moisture is due to the temperature change.
Right. In an insulated hive, you don't have that problem because of the insulation factor of the box. Right. There's no cold surface because the insulation takes care of that. It's like your house. It's cold on the outside part of the wall, but not on the inside because of the insulation.
Right.
And you don't have, and if there is any moisture, well, they're going to have some in there when they're respirations. They'll suck that off the wall for moisture for drinking water, recycle it really. And
looks like everybody's leaving us. Starting to leave us.
Well, it's getting to be about 20 minutes 11, and I think we ought to be. I'll give it a couple more minutes, and we'll leave it quarter of or something like that. So that's that's my experience with it. The only problem of it is when it comes to a vaporizer, it'll melt the darn box. You got to watch. You got to be very careful with that.
Well, that might be Apivar time for me or Formic or something, because what I really need to do is get some of those sensors that tell me what the temperature is inside the box, and see if Formic would be a thing for those boxes if they keep it cool enough in the heat that's not an issue. You know what I mean?
Lamar, he's how you pronounce that? Larimore, he's leaving too. Yeah, it's 2:41, or it's 10:41. I'll go to 10:45 and we'll shut down. But it was a good night. We had Ian and everybody in, and James. That was a good thing about watching his bee barn.
Yep.
And all that. But yeah, it's beekeeping's an experiment. So you just have to, check out them hives, see whether they work for you and that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, they were a little spendy for the 10 framers. I'm not going to lie there, but it's worth the try. I mean, in the end of the day, if the hives are more expensive, but they keep my bees alive, then how much, does that extra money matter at that point? That's that's kind of what I'm going for.
Mark says vent the hive good with Formic.
Okay.
Yeah, Formic, you definitely want it wide open in the front. I listened to the guy that was down there with Bruce's bees. They were using that. They were testing with a solid bottom board. And
Kyle says no, don't vent. I don't know.
I know when I use Formic Pro in my 10 frames, I put the Coroplast board underneath the screen bottom board. I leave the front entrance wide open. This is what they say in the instructions. And I do, a lot of hobbyists have the quilt boards and all that stuff. And I've never done any of that stuff. I just have some little wooden blocks. I put them in each front corner on top of the inner cover, which raises that telescoping lid up just
A little bit.
an eighth of an inch, or quite a little bit less than an eighth of an inch, just enough for there a little bit of an air circulation out where it keeps the moisture down. And I've never had any.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. Michael's about I don't know, hour and a half east of me on the north side, where then Chris, the Bugman 1966, is an hour and a half east of me south. Well, like two different roads that come out of my town. Got to take one that's south of me to get to Chris, and one that's north of me to get to Michael.
All right, the Bugman 1966 is in
Charleston, South Carolina.
He's not Louisiana.
No, and Michael Buck is in Darlington, South Carolina. And I'm in Columbia. Well, Hopkins, which is east of Columbia, but like right on. Across the street from me is Columbia. So I always say Columbia because everybody knows that place and not necessarily where I'm at.
Yeah. So another good Sunday night. I believe
we got the missed Super Bowl. Let's see who won the Super Bowl since nobody cares.
I think I got like 3,700 hours now.
You're almost there, Charlie. Almost.
Yeah, but I need that 1,000 subs, and then I probably won't get paid like you said, guys said anyway. I won't make it. I mean, I wasn't in it for the money anyway. I enjoy all the folks here on the chat. That's what I enjoy.
So apparently, the Chiefs came back and won. So I don't know. Let's see what the score was. 38-35. So the Chiefs win it, and Patrick Mahomes played with a sprained ankle. Came back to win. So good for them.
Mark said he's seen some nectar today. Really?
Nice. Yeah, Mike, you went right past me, buddy. You went right past me today. But it was nasty weather out. So I stayed in the house.
Where's Mike at? Where's Mike live at? Mike Buck?
Darlington, South Carolina. You know, where they used to do the
Race cars.
Yep. I don't know if they still do races there. At least not the official like NASCAR one. They might do some other series.
I think they do. I know a guy up here next to me. He was really big in that for over 30 some years, and he's gotten older. And Darlington, South Carolina or North Carolina?
South Carolina.
Anyway, the tickets got, he started, I'll say 30 years ago when tickets were, I'll say, semi-reasonable.
Yeah, now probably $100.
And now they're several $100 a seat. And I don't know, they just got, I don't know, I guess after 30 some years, it just, after a while, it just kind of struck him, like, you know what? I'm just kind of done, with all that stuff.
Right.
So he gave up his yearly seat tickets.
Hey, Stuffy.
A couple years ago.
Stuffy, where are you at? Because Charlie's writing everybody down. He's putting you on the permanent list. It's going down on your permanent record. Raised right beside the track, he said.
What, he's right
close to the track, yeah. Cool. I've been by that track. I might have to roll down there one day and see what you got going on. I could do a South Carolina beekeeping tour. As many as I've met more South Carolina beekeepers through YouTube than I've met in South Carolina.
Well, did you have any bee conventions and stuff like that in your area?
In 2 weeks that Bob Binney's going to be at in Florence. This is the South Carolina Beekeeper Association meeting is in Florence.
Who else is going to be there?
Let me see. Hold on.
Stuffy says, yes, they BDO. What's that mean? Brooding?
I'm not sure what BDO. Let me see. South Carolina State Beekeepers.com. And registration's open. Conference info. There we go. Is presented by Rossman Apiaries.
Yeah.
Johnson's Bees and Supplies. Farm Bureau. Better Bee. Midnight Bee. Little Wing Apiary. South Carolina Master Beekeeper Program. The Clemson University Cooperative Extension. Keynote speakers, Bob Binney, Stephen Coy.
I don't know who he is.
Says Stephen Coy is a second-generation commercial beekeeper where he learned how to manage bees in a soybean and cotton fields of northeast Arkansas, and in southeast Missouri.
No, is that the same guy that Bob put on there? In that
He
video?
Stephen Coy? I don't know.
You're down there, Stuffy. You're down there, Hickory, North Carolina. That's where my cousins lived. Most of them are passed away now, though.
C. Marina Marchese is going to be there. Is the international best-selling author of The Honey Connoisseur, Selecting, Tasting, and Pairing Honey with a Guide to More Than 30 Varietals and Honey for Dummies.
So, Stuffy, you're going to be in Maryland, or you're going to be up around Bob up in South Carolina?
Hickory. He's in Hickory, North Carolina.
Yeah, it's where my cousin, he used to have hosiery mills down there.
So you're going to be in my area Thursday? D.O. What is D.O.?
Mm.
Then they got looks like they got a honey swap. Enter your honey and beeswax products in our statewide show. Conference information. They have three speakers. That's what it looks like.
Well, they sound like they got two good ones. I was looking at the West Virginia conference.
Ricky's going to be there.
Ricky Rourke?
Yeah, he's got a vendor. He's going to be a vendor there. Ricky's going to be there. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of manufacturers there.
Mike Buck, he says if you ever go to the races, he gives you free beekeepers free parking.
We have to sit on his house to watch the race from outside. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Looks like they got 19 vendors there. It's not bad for a smaller conference, right?
I guess. I don't know. I was looking at the West Virginia Beekeepers Association. They're going to have Greg Burns and Kent Williams and
Koya's Russian bees. Okay. I should call Bob and say, hey, Bob, since you're coming through with the show, why don't you bring some of your stuff down? I'll pick it up from you.
Let's see.
Okay, working. You're going to be working down here. Where are you going to be working at, man? Because I'm all over town all week long. With my work, so. Oh, well, Charlie.
Yeah, we're just about done. Let me pop this up right quick.
We'll be on Lee's channel on Tuesday. So 3 out of the last 4 weeks we've been on Lee's because of my hack incident. But it's all good.
Yeah, it's the 2023 West Virginia Beekeepers Association Spring Conference.
That's in March.
Yeah, March.
I would love to go to that one. The problem is March, I'll be in beekeeping season, right? So,
yeah, but I don't know. I mean, they got...
I think Cayman's going to be there. I believe... Oh, was Randy going to be at that one?
Who?
Randy, Dirt Rooster?
No. It had billing information, register.
I would love to go to a lot of this stuff. The problem is work, right? I've only got a finite amount of time that I can say, yeah, by the way, I'm not going to be coming to work that day because I'm going to be in West Virginia.
Yeah, they don't list
Events,
the people who are going to be there. That's what.
Honey in the Hills. Vendors, event schedule. Maybe it's there. Keynote Humberto is going to be there.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, here we go. We got Kent Williams. We got Robin Underwood, a PhD extension agent for Penn State. That's nothing to talk about. You got Paul Kelly, who was down at Hive Life. You got Roberto. I'm not real. I thought he lives in Maryland.
He might. Bon Christiani. I don't know
And
where.
then there
Greg
is
Burns.
Greg Burns.
Topic to be determined, it says right now. Jay Cox, lip balm making demonstration. Kurt Shade, mind your beeswax. Mark Lilly, spring management. Wade Stiltner, successful backyard beekeeping. Panel discussion. Bill Barbie, Roy Funkhauser, Paul Poling, and Kent Williams. Shanda King is the moderator.
The only person there that I'm interested in is Kent Williams. He's really good.
And Paul Kelly.
Paul Kelly's good too. I enjoyed him down at Hive Life. And he's a very nice guy. I met him at his table that he had set up.
I met him at the hotel eating breakfast.
Is that right?
He stayed at the same hotel.
He had a really that far away.
Oh yeah, Stuffy did tell me that he had a mobile showroom for a furniture company. Which place are you going to be at, Stuffy? I think you got my phone number and everything. If you text me where you're going to be, maybe I'll swing by and talk to you for a minute.
Well, it's almost 11 o'clock. So I guess we'll take and get out of here.
I stopped following NASCAR pretty much when Mark Martin stopped driving. He was my guy. And I haven't picked up a new guy to follow. I was a Valvoline fan.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day. Ford fan. See, the problem is that they have all these shows. They always do Friday and Saturday instead of Saturday and Sunday. If they did Saturday and Sunday, then I could leave Friday, get there in the evening, right? And then be there Saturday and Sunday, leave Sunday and drive home. That would work. But the Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing makes it a little bit difficult with the job. If you're not like right there local. But at any rate, you calling it a night?
Yeah, I was kind of waiting on that. I got a couple more minutes.
Are you trying to wait right till 11 o'clock?
I want to get up to 3 o'clock or 3 hours on. I got about a minute to go or so.
That's funny.
Yeah, keep the numbers even. But it was good. I enjoyed it tonight. And I enjoyed James's little excursion there and his bee barn and all that. We got less than a minute now. And all. So we'll say, good night, Mark. And Charlie's on the countdown. Yeah. I got 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 25 seconds. You go.
I wasn't even paying attention to that.
Huh?
I wasn't even paying attention to that.
I got less than a minute now. We'll call it a night at 11 o'clock. Straight up.
Straight up 11.
Mm-hmm. Now, Brad, we're getting ready to leave.
Do what?
Brad, can you believe it?
You know why he does that? He knows the VIP room's coming up afterwards.
Is that what the deal is?
So he wants to after hours conversation here.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast here. So
All right.
we'll see y'all next Tuesday night at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time on what, Walker Bee Ranch?
No, Lee's channel this week.
So it's going to be on Lee's channel, Kodiak Farms. That's where it's at. So
all right. Well, good night, everyone.
all right. Good night, everybody.
Hang around, Brad.